It says it's live now.
Thank you very much. Well, hopefully we're live now. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor David Fuller and I'm chair of this planning committee, and I want to welcome everyone here to this virtual planning committee meeting this afternoon. We are meeting virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being broadcast to enable the press and the public to view this meeting. The officer will present the application, read out any written deputations received and confirm the recommendations for debate. To facilitate this meeting, I have exercised my discretion in accordance with the Constitution and suspended Standing Orders number 41A, and I'm allowing debate of items before a formal motion is made to this committee. Members are reminded to keep their videos on and indicate if they need to leave the proceedings at any point. Members are requested to keep their microphones on and mute, and only to turn these on when you're called to speak. This will limit, obviously, the amount of background noise. Officers are requested to turn their cameras on only when they are presenting their reports or answering any questions from members here this afternoon. Members who wish to speak in this debate, obviously you should use the chat facility and simply write RTS, and obviously that means request to speak. Please do not use the chat facility for anything else. Officers will also use the chat function to advise me or ourselves if they need to provide any advice to this committee. If there is a technical difficulties or we need to take a confidential advice, we will endeavour to resolve this as quick as possibly, where necessary, have a brief adjournment. I will now explain the running order for this meeting. Members will declare any interests, receive an update on planning matters, agree the minutes of the previous meeting, and then we'll determine each planning item. For each item, the planning officer will make a presentation of the application. Following their presentation, the officer then will read out any written deputations submitted in accordance with the amended standing orders for deputies. Members will then ask questions, make comments and determine the application. So first of all, now as we're on to introductions, so I'd now like to invite members to introduce themselves. Can you please reply stating your name and saying present, and whether you are attending as a full committee member or a standing deputy. I will then pause for a few minutes or few seconds between calling each member. Those who are not able to confirm that they are present will be recorded as absent from this meeting. Okay, members. So I now want to call Deputy Chair, which is Councillor Judith Smythe. Councillor Judith Smythe, please. Good afternoon.
Councillor Judith Smythe, Vice Chair of this committee, present, Chair.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Councillor Chris Atwell, please. Councillor Atwell.
Good afternoon, Chair. Chris Atwell, present. I am a full committee member.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I now call upon Councillor Lee Hunt, please. Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, I'm present, Chair, and I'm also a councillor for Nelson Ward, which covers Stamshore, Tipton, North End and Buckland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Councillor Donna Jones. Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Donna Jones, Conservative Group Leader, and I'm a full member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones, and welcome. Councillor Terry Norton, please. Councillor Norton.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Terry Norton, present, and I'm also a full-time member of this committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and welcome. Councillor Lynn Stagg, please. Councillor Stagg.
Good afternoon, Chair. Councillor Lynn Stagg, full member of this committee, present.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and welcome. Councillor Luke Stubbs, please. Councillor Stubbs.
Luke Stubbs, present, and I'm also a full member.
Thank you very much. Councillor Claire Oudie, please. Councillor Oudie, please.
Councillor Claire Oudie here, and I'm a full member of the Planning Committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and again, welcome to yourselves. Can I now ask the officers to confirm that they are present as follows? Ezzy Alcaldo, Head of Development Management.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm present. Thank you.
Thank you. Simon Turner, who's the Development Management Lead. Simon.
Thank you, Chairman. I am present, Simon Turner.
Thank you. Rebecca Altman, who's the Principal Planning Officer.
Thank you, Chairman. Yep, I'm present.
I'm going to apologise this before I say it, but Altia Mazuricka, Principal Planning Officer. Sorry if I've said that wrongly.
Thank you, Chairman. Almost correct. Thank you. I'm present.
Thank you very much. Kieran Levin, who's the Planning Legal Advisor. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Thank you very much. And Anna Martin, much easier one here, Local Democratic Officer.
Yeah, Anna Martin, Local Democracy Officer, present.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the officers there. So apologies then. So the first item on the agenda is apologies. So I'll ask Anna, the officer, to confirm whether she has received any apologies for absence for this meeting today. Anna?
Councillor Matthew Atkins. That's the only one I'm aware of.
Thank you very much, and that's been duly noted. Thank you very much. Members, we're now moving on to, that completes obviously the attendance record, so now we're moving on to agenda item number 2, which is declarations of any members' interests. So do members have any declarations that they would like to make? Please state both the type of interest and the nature of the interest. Any members at all? No, I can't see anyone. No? Okay, so I'll take it that there is no declarations of interest from any members. Thank you, members. So I'm going to move on to minutes of the previous meeting, and that was held on the 30th of March. So that's the item number 3, to consider the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th. The recommendation for that is that the minutes be approved as a correct record and be signed by me, the chair. So can I have a proposal for the recommendation, please, and a seconder? Can I have a proposal, please? Anybody want to propose that? Councillor Lee Hunt, can I have a seconder, please, from somebody? Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I'm happy.
There's Councillor Lynn Stagg, thank you very much. So proposed and seconded by Councillor Lynn Stagg there. Thank you very much. So the recommendation has been proposed. I'll take a vote for this. If the affirmation of the meeting are permitted within regulations and there is no dissent, the proposal will be passed. Any objections to this recommendation? Can't see any. No? Okay, so that's been passed. Thank you very much again, members, for that. So, okay, so we'll move on to the next item, and this is updates from the planning officer or planning and any planning applications. Ezzy, would you be able to tell us if you had any updates for members, please?
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. We've received an appeal for our advert consent. That's for at the advert right junctions at Derby Road and Stampshaw Road, and that's for display of internally illuminated digital LED screen. And we've also received appeals against a prior approval and 2 number householders and 4 full applications. And then we've received 2 decisions, one which was allowed and one which was dismissed. I don't know if members wanted further details of these appeals, which I can provide. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Members, any questions? Councillor Lee Hunt, please.
Just say, can we have the details of the allowed and the disallowed appeal by email? If you haven't already sent it, I'm sorry.
Okay, I can have that sent across to you, Councillor Hunt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any members, any more questions from members to the officer about no? Okay, thank you very much then, members. So members, we'll now move on to the first applications, only 3 this afternoon. So the planning officer will now present the first application, and this is agenda item number 5, and this is number 17 Merton Road, Southsea. And I understand Simon Turner, who's the Development Management Lead, will present this application. So I'll hand over to Simon. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you. And can you see the slideshow yet?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Chairman. My name's Simon Turner, Planning Officer, presenting this application at 17 Merton Road. for the conversion of a large building from a sui generis large HMO and flat to form a five flatted residential property. Members may recall this item was on the February committee. It was deferred in order to correct the development description and to republicise it accordingly locally. We have done that now. We had one objection and an associated deputation request with the application. The objection just concerned trees. That has not materialised as a deputation, though I have written to the objector just to explain the history and to bring them up to date with the tree matters. Otherwise, this is a predominantly Victorian area in the Owen South Sea Conservation Area. I'll just put my pointer on. Sitting here at the eastern end of Merton Road. This is Victoria Road south to the east, and it sits, as it happens, between two 20th century flatted blocks, but otherwise the area is predominantly Victorian. There's the property. I think this is a photograph from a year or two ago. Clearly an imposing and attractive property, originally built as a dwelling, no doubt, converted, or had planning permission to convert to a hotel in the late 60s, and in the late 70s, conversion to HMO and flat. There was a large sycamore on the front that was removed with the consent of the local authority because it was just a metre behind the front boundary wall. You can just discern a bow in the boundary wall and a crack, which has got worse since this photograph was taken, hence the need to remove the tree, and it has recently been replaced with a heavy standard in this position in accordance with the TPO consent. The rear of the property has this outrigger of different ages. That is the principal area of change on the application. There is a general view of the back of the property. I apologise for the quality of the fuzziness of the lines on this. This is the entrance porch on the left-hand side. The existing one, which I'll go back and show you, would be demolished and rebuilt in the same style, albeit with a slightly smaller footprint and being set back. That's the existing. This would be the proposed one. And the rear outrigger that you can see in the previous photograph, this area would be replaced with the same footprint development. The existing amounts to about 28.5 square metres, and the proposed would be about 26.5, so a tiny bit smaller in footprint. And then there were two flats on the ground floor, two flats on the first floor, and a flat on the second floor. There's the front elevation that you've seen already, and the outrigger. That is the appearance of the new proposed porch, albeit set back from the front. There's the front, there's the setback, and here is the new replacement outrigger at the rear. Just some illustrations of the refuse store and so on. There was no parking proposed. This was a matter of debate during the course of the application. And indeed, the applicant did show some parking on the front at some point, but officers recommended not to do that in terms of conservation area character and the retention of a front boundary wall. So the site would remain as existing without parking. In principle, though, the officers are satisfied that the application can be supported in principle. It's one residential use to another, and hopefully some general improvements to the upkeep of the property would go along with the conversion to 5 flats. As I mentioned before, the appearance of the property would be preserved in terms of the replacement porch on the left-hand side, the front boundary wall maintained and improved by condition, and the replacement outrigger of the same size and footprint, essentially. With respect to residential amenity for the neighbours, because of such little physical change to the property, there will be no discernible or no material effect on their outlook or light, into visibility, anything like that. And then for the occupiers, the rooms and flats are of a good standard and are deemed acceptable by officers. Moving on to the SMAT, the Supplementary Matters Report. I'll just see if I can turn that up and take you through it. Just one moment, please. Verbally. We had an email from the applicant yesterday, knowing that the application is appearing at the committee. She simply noted, in her opinion, the site is too large for a single family house, and that a smaller and more affordable flats will bring more benefits for society. There was a typo in paragraph 6.3 of the report on the last line, where it says the permission in favour of sustainable development. That should read the presumption in favour of sustainable development. Then the SMAT goes on to just tidy up some of the special protection area mitigation matters. The recreational bird disturbance matter has already been dealt with by the advance payment, so that would be deleted from any legal agreement. So we recommended an update to the recommendation there. And then with respect to nitrates and mitigation, we have not had a formal reply still from Natural England, and that is needed. So it's not settled. We didn't propose to take this to ask you to defer the item again. So we've suggested a recommendation that once Natural England have concluded the position, if we can just have that matter deferred to the Assistant Director's authority after this committee. It's pretty straightforward. As you can see, there's a large dwelling with occupation already, and that will change, a large residential accommodation, HMO and flats, that will change into 5 flats if approved. So there's likely to be a low level of mitigation required, or possibly none at all. So it's just a question of resolving that clearly, and therefore either having a legal agreement for that low level of mitigation, or no agreement at all, indeed, subject to Natural England's comments. On the matter of parking, there is an objection from the Highways Authority, so we thought it was a good idea to revisit the site. I've been out on 3 recent evenings, all evenings before work, in terms of people not being away, even during the pandemic, and also in term time. And I've walked up and down the street and done an estimation by eye of the on-street parking. Merton Road intersects with Nelson Road, so I've gone up and down both of those two. They're close together, not particularly long roads. And the eastern half of Nelson Road has had 1 space available, and outside the application site, which is the eastern end of Merton Road, has had 3 to 12 spaces. Did I say Merton Road twice then? I'll start again. The eastern half of Nelson Road nearby has had 1 space available on street. The eastern half of Merton Road has between 3 and 12 spaces. The western half of Nelson Road has had 16 to 24 spaces available on street, and the western half of Merton Road has had 9 to 12 spaces available. The western half of Nelson Road has a particularly high number because most of the houses, properties are large with on-street parking, so less demand. And then St John's College backs on to Nelson Road, so there are no drops to curbs to get into the site, and less parking pressure because there are no occupiers of St John's College. So that, I think, explains why there's such good availability there. So we've noted the objection from the Highways Authority, but seeing the actual level of on-street parking availability in the area, we didn't wish to, we'd come to that conclusion anyway, but we certainly wouldn't wish to change the recommendation with respect to that. I think that's all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that presentation. Members, I'm going to throw it onto the floor now and ask members for any questions. If you could use the chat facility, that is better for me than hands up. Any members wish to ask any questions to Simon, please? No? Nobody at all? Okay. Okay, so there's no questions, Simon, at the moment. So now I'm going to go over to comments then, please, members. Comments. Any members wish to have any comments, please? Yes. First one, Councillor Judith Smythe, please.
I thought Luke Stubbs was ahead of me, but it doesn't matter. I wanted to
Sorry, I see you at the top of mine. Sorry, I'm yeah,
Okay.
I've got. Sorry, yes, sorry, it came up on me chat that Councillor Luke Stubbs was before you, Councillor Judith Smith. So if that's okay, Councillor Stubbs, then please, just trying to get it fair. Councillor Stubbs.
I'm quite happy for Judith to speak before me, but alternatively, I'll just make my points, which is, look, you've got a large building here, which is, you know, it's not well maintained in these pictures. We've got a scheme here which ultimately should lead to an improvement. I was quite interested actually in a couple of the conditions, condition 5 and 6, where you, because it's a change of use, I didn't think you could actually do this, but you've got conditions in about the boundary wall and about the front open space as well, the front garden area, which is very welcome. I think I agree with the planning officers that it is better to retain the wall than knock the wall down to create car parking. I think that would be very much a retrograde step. And so overall, it's a scheme which is beneficial to the area, and I'm happy to propose the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Luke Stubbs. So I've got a proposal there to go with the to grant permission to go set out with the Officers Committee report. Councillor Judith Smythe, please. You were second.
I'm very happy to second that recommendation to give permission.
So you're happy to second, yes?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Members, any other comments, please, before we go to the vote? No? It's going to be quite an easy one then. Okay, so we have a motion on the table then proposed by Councillor Luke Stubbs that we grant planning permission in accordance with the officer's recommendations. And I don't think there's anything, it's as the officer's report, and that was seconded by Councillor Judith Smith. So I now ask the planning officer, is there any additional comments before we go to the vote at all? Simon?
No, Chairman, just to change the recommendation as per the SMAT, please.
Okay, so could the proposer and the seconder confirm they're happy with that? Yes, I take we are. So we now go to the vote then. So I'll ask each member, please, would you please state if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain? So Councillor Judith Smythe, please, are you for or against, please? Or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Atwell, please, are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lee Hunt, are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for.
Thank you very much. Councillor Donna Jones, please state if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Terry Norton, please would you indicate if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lynn Stagg, are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Luke Stubbs, are you for, against, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Claire Udy, please indicate if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
For, sorry.
That's okay. Now cast my vote, and I am for this. So I think I can go over to Anna, but I think Anna's going to say that's full marks, I think. Yes, Anna?
It is 9 who are for.
Thank you very much. So that has been carried. Thank you very much, members. Thank you for that. So swiftly, we're now, if everyone's okay, moving on to the next application, which is the Hovercraft Terminal, Clarence Parade, Clarence Esplanade, sorry, Southsea. And Rebecca is going to introduce that report. Rebecca.
Thank you, Chairman. I just need to wait for Simon to stop sharing his, I believe.
Thank you very much.
I'm just pressing the buttons now. Apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Over to you.
Right, I'm just going to try and share mine. So if you could just do a yes when you can see my presentation.
We can see your big face there.
Thank you.
There we are. There we are. You've come
there
up.
We are.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. First of all, I'll just say you may have noted this supplementary matters that's come round. It includes the comments from the highway engineer. That's the only notable addition since publication of the report. Otherwise, we have had one letter of a explaining that they want to make a deputation, so I'll be reading that out after I've done this presentation. Right. So the application relates to the area of beach, which is just behind the Hover Terminal building on South Sea seafront. So I've got a longer distance view here. It's right next to the Clarence Pier and opposite the public toilets there and the sort of big road network. The hovercraft landing pad is just to the southeast, and the proposed location of the building is behind the flat-roofed element of the Hover Terminal, and just behind the kiosks which front onto Clarence Esplanade. So I will show you some photographs now to give you a bit of a better indication. So this is the existing Hover Terminal. You can't really see, you can see it slightly as a flat roof element behind, and these are the single-storey kiosks which front onto the promenade. So the application is for a temporary office building to be erected behind that structure there, if you can see that. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail when I show you the elevations. But this is another closer up view of the area of land as existing. Here I've got some pictures of being a bit closer to the kiosk, so this is where you'd be able to see through the gap and you would be able to see the building behind and above the kiosks. It would be 2-storey in height. And then a couple of photographs taken looking along the beach from the other side of the landing pad, looking back towards the side elevation of Clarence Pier, and the new building would be in this location here. And then this just shows a longer distance view to show how you can see the site from a distance. You can see a variety of building styles and roof types, and behind the car park there. So this is a close-up of the site. This is the proposed office building here, the ground floor and first floor. It's proposed to be occupied by a company called Griffin Hoverwork, who would like to be on the site of the operating hovercraft because they manufacture the hovercraft. So it's a relocation opportunity for them to this city, and this would be here for a temporary period of 5 years. And the intention is that they would then work with the council through the Seafront Master Plan to come up with a more comprehensive, longer-term redevelopment of the Hover Terminal and surrounding area to incorporate their office. Elevation-wise, fairly sort of I want to say basic modular design, so rectangular. As I said, it was 2 stories, so you would see it above the kiosks here, and you would see the first floor level, and you can see it is more or less the same sort of height as the adjacent element of the Clarence Pier building. And this is just to show the colour scheme that they're looking for, to have a kind of blue edging to the building with red panels, which is the Hoverwork. It is their company's colours, and the blue would also relate quite well to the blue that's on the Clarence Pier building. That's really all to show you in terms of the plans. The highway engineer comments, you will note they don't have any concerns about the actual number of vehicle movements associated with the proposal. They do note that the Clarence Pier car park, if that's what it's called, it may not be, will be closed during a large part of the South Sea defence works. And whilst that is, we do accept that point, it's felt that it is an accessible location. It's got bus routes. It's cycling distance to the station. So that loss of that parking in relation to this particular use isn't considered to be a significant concern, and there's no change to the office's recommendation on that basis. So I've now got two deputations, one from an objector and one from the applicant. So I will just read those out now. Excuse me, I'll put that onto the other screen. There's a problem with too many screens. Okay. This is a letter of objection from, or a deputation, should I say, from Jill Norman, who is from the South Sea Clarence Esplanade Pier. Further to receiving notice of the above planning application, we wish to make the following comments. We note that Hover Travel are seeking permission for an extension of their current facilities by way of a porter cabin block within a conservation area with no flood protection to the rear of the existing terminal building. Whilst in principle we have no objection to this, as it can hardly make it look any worse than it has done for the last 20 years, we believe that now is time for PCC to impose certain conditions to this application that should protect the neighbouring properties. As neighbouring property owners, the South Sea Clarence Esplanade Pier Company Limited, we are concerned that at no time has PCC ever considered or imposed conditions to protect our property, which has been grit blasted continually since the last time this company objected to the landing pad being enlarged to cater for the larger craft in 2006, despite making objections to the Environmental Health Officer. Since that time, an even larger craft has been permitted to operate with no protection or barriers in place to protect our business premises. Hover Travel have already acknowledged themselves that they have a problem by installing on our property warning signs. And at this point, I'm just going to show you a photograph that they've requested is shown. We also note that this application is to relocate employees from their Southampton offices, which will put even more pressure on an already overused car park by Hover Travel's customers. This, therefore, is not creating any additional jobs, just relocating existing ones. At the very least, the PCC should only allow temporary permission for this application, and it should be removed in 3 years, as this will not help the Council's long-term vision within their current master plan to redevelop the whole area, as cooperating with this company is a vital key to fulfilling any long-term redevelopment they have for the area. Therefore, we would strongly object to the application being passed unless there are conditions in place to protect the surrounding neighbouring properties and Hover Travel install barriers to protect our property, and it is removed within 3 years. I now have a deputation from the agent, which we have considered the deputation from the South Sea Clarence Esplanade Pier Company Limited. Our planning application seeks temporary planning permission for the relocation of office facilities from Southampton ahead of any potential future redevelopment of the Hover Travel site. The Pier Company's deputation raises a matter of sand and grit that is not related to the proposed temporary building. With respect to the parking and travel arrangements of our staff, the numbers are modest and will not materially affect demand on the car park opposite. We also note that there is an intention to add a condition requiring the removal of the building by the 1st of May 2026. This is acceptable. However, reducing this to a 3-year period would make the proposal financially unviable in terms of the cost-benefit of the facility, and we would request that the proposed restriction of planning permission to a 5-year duration is agreed. We have detailed our case for this temporary consent in our application and articulated the benefits that locating the proposed building on this site will bring. We hope that the Planning Committee will support our proposal and the activities associated with it and accept the Office's recommendation that permission be granted. And that was from Griffin Hoverwork. Thank you. That's the end of the deputations.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the presentation as well, I take it. Okay, then. So lovely. Thank you very much. So, members, you've heard from Rebecca there. Can we got any questions, please? Yes, Councillor Lee Hunt, please. Questions, please, to Rebecca. Thank you.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for the presentation. What is the argument then for reducing the temporary permission to 3 years? What's the logic about that? Are you aware or whatever?
I have to say I'm not sure, to be honest. It doesn't really explain that within the deputation. I think they just feel that perhaps 5 years is quite a long time, and if it was 3 years, it might bring forward the permanent proposals quicker. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Okay. And secondly, then about the grit flying up and grit blasting the funfair buildings, it does seem a bit harsh that happens. I presume they have to suffer the cost of repairing it. Is there anything that can be done? I note what Griffin say, but is there anything that can be done or not?
Not under this application, because it wouldn't be. This application has no relation to the actual operation of the hovercraft and doesn't change any of its. It doesn't change the frequency or the amount or type of hovercraft being used. So we couldn't we couldn't justify a condition under this particular application.
And not wishing to steal Councillor Stagg's thunder, has there been any travel to work plan looked at here? If it's in the report, I'm sorry.
No, they've just made the point that it is a well-served site by public transport, and their staff would be encouraged to use sustainable means of transport. But there is no formal travel plan as such, and it's not something we would normally require for an office of this size.
Thank you.
Councillor Lynn Stagg, please. Questions to Rebecca, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question about transport, actually, strangely enough. But has there been any investigation into the effect of the building, possible effect of the building, on the movement of beach material? Because the whole of the South Sea coast is an area of longshore drift where beach material is moved along the coast, and that can, in some instances, lead to scouring away of the beach material and additional erosion. I'm not aware that this is the case, and I would have thought that Councillor Hugh Mason would have brought this up because he's the expert on coastal matters. It's just me being a geographer bringing this up. I don't know.
Rebecca?
The answer is no. There hasn't been any investigation as to any impact on removal of shingle from this application. It hasn't been raised as a particular issue by any of the consultees. There has been an ecology point because there is a loss of some vegetated shingle, so that's being mitigated against, and there is a mitigation plan in place. But in relation to actual longshore movements, no, there hasn't been an investigation.
No, I think as there's quite a lot of vegetation there, that probably won't occur. But I just thought I'd ask it just to be on the safe side. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stagg. Councillor Judith Smythe, please. Councillor Smythe, please.
I mean, I wonder if the reason it's only 3 years is because the Sea Defence's next phase will be starting to affect this in the near future, and that they do talk about doing work to advise the council on and others on the future of the hovercraft and its landing area. So that may be a sensible reason for it. But I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be in the position when the sea defences the details of the sea defences are agreed, of offering compensation to them for this new development, since they clearly know that the sea defences are going to be rebuilt in advance of building.
Rebecca?
I think the first point is we are allowing a condition for 5-year temporary period. It was 3 years was suggested by the deputy, not by us. In relation to sea defences, I did include a plan at the end of my presentation. You probably can't really see this, but it just shows that the actual works relating to the sea defence works doesn't affect the area immediately around the application site. The promenade would be raised further to the southeast, and the beach works wouldn't start until the other side of the hovercraft landing pad here. So the sea defence work shouldn't have a direct impact on this building proposal. I wasn't sure I understood, sorry, the last point that you made, Councillor Smythe.
The point is that I think there are a number of businesses that may or may not think they have a right to compensation because of sea defence works going on. And in this case, I think it would be entirely unjustified, but we want to make sure, I think, as a council, that that wouldn't be something that we would have to face.
Becca?
I'm not sure I can answer that any further.
No. Could any officer answer that query from Councillor Smythe at all, or want to chip in? No? Sorry, Councillor Smythe, I can't.
It couldn't be made a condition, could it?
Councillor Smythe, can I assist at all?
Yes, Kieran, please.
Right, it's not something I've particularly considered before, but as you're talking through it, it's striking me that it's probably a matter that our colleagues in asset management would need to take away in terms of dealing with our leaseholders, the council's leaseholders. As you'll be aware, at the beginning of the report, this is before the committee because we are the freeholder as a council. So it'd be something for them to consider. I can't really answer either way what the position with compensation would be, and it wouldn't necessarily be in the council's interest for me to answer that question today. I think it falls outside the scope of whether or not to grant permission on this particular application, because obviously the Sea Defence's permission has already been granted.
That's the point, really. The sea defence conditions have been granted, and therefore it would be entirely unreasonable for anybody who building something subsequent to that to claim any compensation. And I mean, perhaps that would be clear anyway, but
in layman's terms, I would agree with you, but that's quite a detailed area of advice, I think. But I can't give you a complete answer on that, other than to say I don't think that's a matter for consideration today.
Thank you, Kieran. You've done the legal bit. Thank you very much. Members, any more questions, please, to the officers at all, to Rebecca? No? Okay, then. So I'm going to have to move swiftly on to comments. Councillor Lee Hunt got in there. Councillor Lee Hunt, please. Comments then, please, to the officer.
Yeah, I'd like to propose the officer's recommendation with any conditions. Seems to me that we're very pleased to welcome Griffin to Portsmouth from Southampton. You know, this is all part of Portsmouth's increasing maritime industries, isn't it? Another string to the bow, following Ben Ainsley Racing, the new ships that are coming, the cruise ships are coming to the harbour, and all around with the push agenda to promote maritime industries. And of course, hopefully when they settle down and become more permanent, then we'll see more local jobs with more local people being employed as well, because we can't know where all these people are going to come from. I've noted the fact that they're talking about there's room in the car park opposite, and I know rail is horrifically expensive, but we really do need to get hold of this issue about travel to work. Anyway, I think the advantages, the huge advantages of having Griffin here and hover travel far outweigh any disadvantages. So very, very pleased to welcome them and have them here in our city and propose the report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Donna Jones, I think you might have a problem with the chat, but I think I saw your hand up. Councillor Donna Jones?
Sorry, I'm not on my council laptop at the moment because of the IT issues had at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'd like to second Councillor Hunt's proposal for conditional permission. I think that I know of Griffin Hover Travel from my time as director of the LEP, and the very unique company they are globally. They do actually make hovercrafts for South American countries, particularly policing the Amazon, and there's a lot of drug trafficking which the hovercrafts are involved in policing to try and stop that from happening. That I think this will be a real asset to Portsmouth, because I think it will draw people to the city to want to come and see some of the exhibitions that Griffin Hover Travel will want to put on. So that's from a councillor, resident and commercial tourism perspective. In terms of the design itself and the planning features and the material planning points in the report, as this is proposed to be a temporary structure, I see no objection at all whatsoever, taking on board the comments from Mrs. Norman about the effect to her site, which I think is an ongoing discussion that needs to be resolved between both parties. So not taking away from what she said there, I quite like this. And when you go to the hover travel site, the other side of the water in Ryde, in terms of the imposing nature of this, it's not dissimilar what they've got there on the side of their hovercraft building in Ryde as well.
Thank you very much, Donna Jones, Councillor Jones, for that. Those comments as well. Any more comments from members, please, at all before we go to the vote? And no? Okay then, so the officer's recommendation is for conditional permission. So obviously we've got a motion on front of on the table there, proposed by Councillor Lee Hunt, that we grant planning permission in accordance with the officer's recommendations, and this was seconded by Councillor Donna Jones. Just want to check with the planning officer, any additional comments before we go to the vote? Anything to add?
No further comments, thank you.
No, thank you very good. The proposer and seconder confirm that I take it they're very happy with what I'm saying here, suggested by the officer. So I'm now going to go to the vote then. So I'll ask each member in turn if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain. Councillor Judith Smythe, please. Are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain, please?
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Atwell, please. Are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lee Hunt, for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
For, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Donna Jones, for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Terry Norton, please will you indicate you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lynn Stagg, please indicate you're for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Luke Stubbs, please indicate if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Claire Udy, please would you indicate if you're for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Thank you very much. And I cast my own vote, and it's unanimous. Yes, I'm for it in front of us. So just for Anna, it's 9 out of 9, I take it, Anna?
But is 9 who are for the proposal?
Okay, so that has been carried then, members. Thank you again very much, and thank you also for your comments as well. So we're now moving on, I think, to the last application this afternoon, and this is the James Callahan Drive access road to the research establishment Portsmouth, and I think it's Alta. Can I call you Alta? Is that okay? Arita is going to introduce this. Over to yourself.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just confirm that you can see my presentation now?
Yes.
And you can hear me well as well?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, councillors. The final item on the agenda today is a prior approval application related to a site located in Portsmouth Hill. The application site includes vehicular access onto James Callahan Drive and also access road, which runs roughly northwards within the actual site. And then it runs north onto Winchester City Council's area and into the wider site where the main proposed development is considered or proposed. If you can see here, we have a pink line which denotes the administrative boundary between Portsmouth City Council and Winchester City Council. The development includes a new block of flats, 27 flats, to be located, as I said, in Winchester City Council's area. So this proposal is considered by Winchester. Portsmouth City Council can only make a determination in relation to the development which is located in Portsmouth, and that includes the vehicular access and the access road within the site. In addition, because this submission is a prior approval application rather than a planning application for planning permission, the scope of material consideration is narrower, and for this local planning authority includes transportation and highway impacts of the proposed development. And just to very quickly remind, Class ZE is a new class which was brought into effect last year, and it in effect grants planning permission for demolition of certain detached buildings and the construction of new buildings, including detached blocks of flats. This is subject to many conditions, limitations, restrictions, and one of the conditions includes submitting a prior approval application. I will now show a couple of photographs and aerial photograph to introduce the application site. So we have James Callahan Drive running west-east. This is the site located in Winchester, and the long access road running onto James Callaghan Drive. We have Paulsgrove Chalk Pit just to the south of James Callaghan Drive, and Paulsgrove residential development further south. And this photograph shows the vehicular access located just in between two guard huts, and the access to the site would run behind this guard here, just here to the side, as I said, roughly to the north. Here, this photograph shows the access road at the raised level onto the site. Another photograph to show the vehicular access from the site onto the site, including the visibility space. So this photograph shows the view towards the east, and here we have a photograph showing the access and view towards the west, again showing the visibility space and the road itself. I'll just for the remainder of my presentation, leave the location plan because I would like to explain a little bit more the consideration and recommendation. So in this case, the local highway authority has commented and is satisfied with the level of car parking provision for the proposed development. There is no objection in terms of impact or the arrangement of the vehicular access. And also there is no concern over the level of trips generated by the proposal and its impact on the wider highway network in Portsmouth. However, there is an objection on the basis that the application site is not located in a sustainable location, and namely that the site is not connected to any local facilities and services or public transport network, and that the prospective residents would have to rely on a private car. The authority further objects on the basis that James Callaghan Drive doesn't have any street lighting or provision for cyclists and pedestrians, and so the residents would be put at risk if they wish to walk or cycle onto the road, on the road. In response to that, officers would like to note that the application is not an application for planning permission, but it's a prior approval notification where matters related to sustainability of location cannot be considered. Therefore, the fact that the site is located in a remote location doesn't give ground to refuse this submission. Turning to pedestrian safety, officers note that the site is located in excess of 2 miles walk to the nearest local services and facilities in Kosham. Therefore, it's very unlikely that the residents would choose to walk or cycle there. The distance in itself is in excess of planning guidelines for how far people would like to walk or could be willing or could be expected to walk. And the guidance is that this distance is around 800 meters. So the site being in excess of 2 miles walk to the local facilities is beyond that distance. So on that basis, officers conclude that the residents would be unwilling or would be unlikely to access these facilities by foot. But officers do acknowledge that some people may be willing to walk or cycle to and from the site, and this also needs to be considered in light of the previous use of the site. In this case, the existing building was used as a research and development facility, and it would have likely been occupied by about 147 people. The proposed use for 27 flats would accommodate about 65 residents. So it's important to note that some of the previous employees also might have walked or cycled to work, or might have walked to the chalk pit on the other side of the road, for example, at lunchtime. And even assuming that residents would make the residents of the proposed development would make more of these type of trips than office workers. The proposed development would accommodate much fewer people on site than the existing. Officers further would like to note that the local residents in Portsmouth may choose to go there for a walk and cross the road. But there is no evidence that there is a problem with pedestrians walking on the road and cyclists being put at risk. There is also the site in itself. The site itself is not connected to any public rights of way. There is no public rights of way just to the south of James Callaghan Drive. So the area is not really such attractive for people to go there on a normal basis for walks. It's also at quite steep level, so it's perhaps not as attractive to attract so many people to cause these highway concerns. Officers also looked into the level of vehicular trips generated by the proposed and the existing development. And it's unlikely that the proposed development would actually generate more trips, vehicular trips, than the existing development, the existing use. So again, the proposed development in itself wouldn't cause highway issue in itself. The local highway authority has no data on incidents as a result of users of the access to the site entering or leaving the site. Any accident or incident or near misses which might have happened near the actual site. Data has been provided by the local highway authority for the entire stretch of James Callaghan Drive. And this data indicates that on average, in the last 5 years, one serious incident took place on the entire stretch of the road. And on this basis, officers conclude that James Callaghan Drive is not a dangerous road for pedestrians or cyclists, and that the safety of the residents of the proposed development wishing to enter or leave the site on foot or cycle wouldn't be put at risk. So in light of all these considerations, officers conclude that the proposed development would unlikely to result in the increase of pedestrians and cyclists on the road, and that the proposed development would not put pedestrians or cyclists at risk. And from this, officers consider that there is no reason to refuse the application, and the recommendation is that prior approval is required and is granted. I'll just very quickly turn to the updates. I have mentioned most of the points from the updates in my presentation, and I just wanted to clarify the recommendation. This is just purely wording and comes from the legislation. We have received clarification that this part of legislation and the way it is assessed and considered means that prior approval is always required and it can be granted or refused, rather than as officers suggested previously that prior approval was not required. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Riletta. Does any members have any questions for the officer, please? Yes, we've got Councillor Lee Hunt, please. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Aletta, for the presentation. Are we able to go back to the geographical bird's eye view? What is the room along there, Aletta, for a shared cycle and footpath off the road? Is there room from here going each way?
There is and there isn't. There are parts which have on the road have lay-bys, so you can see one here, and there is actually one on the other side. This is the I think it used to be used as a bus stop, a lay-by, which you can see it's here.
Yeah.
I can't really see it very clearly, but there is no curb. The actual curb turns here, and there is no drop curb in this area here, and then there is the lay-by on the other side, and there is a similar situation on the other side of the access. But I wouldn't say that on James Callaghan Drive there is capacity for a cycle lane or for a pedestrian footpath.
Yeah, I'm talking about off the road. I mean, I don't know how far, I don't know what the property is that they're acquiring, but all the way along there seems to be space off the road on the north side, between the fencing and the verge, or behind the fencing, to create shared cycle and footpath.
We've got when Arelenta answers that, we've got Peter who wants to come in. I'm not sure who's the best one for this. Not quite sure what that is, but Aletta, do you want to answer that?
I would probably say the question is that even if there was a capacity to create somewhere here, to create footpath or a cycle lane, the question is whether requesting for this provision would be proportionate to the proposed development, whether if it was an application for planning permission to create 27 flats, whether us requesting for this provision, whether this would be, like I say, proportionate, and whether we could justify such requirement. My initial thought is that probably it's not proportionate to that proposed development. So unless Eze would like to say something different, I perhaps would leave it like that. That it probably wouldn't be proportionate, and we wouldn't ask for this, even if there was a physical capacity to create that provision.
Peter, did you want to come in? Can you hear us, Peter? You wanted to say something.
Yes, Chair. There is physical space to create a cycleway or footway segregated from the carriageway if somebody was so minded to do so. There isn't really opportunity to tie it into anything, though. It could easily be a route to nowhere.
Yes.
I would agree with our letter. It seems disproportionate given the scale of the development. My view differs from that of the planning officer with regard to the safety of the road and the issues that would arise. There are footpaths opposite on the south side, albeit not public rights of way, that people may seek to access from the site. And I'd be expecting about a 30% increase in pedestrian movement from this residential use compared to the historic office use. But that's something for you to consider in the balance.
Thank you, Peter. Councillor Hunt, did you want to come back on anything what you just heard?
Peter's, I have to be upfront about this. I have concerns about the road. I've listened about the lack of incidents along the road, but we're going to have, and I accept what all that happened before, but people do drive pretty speedily on there, and perhaps the only reason that they don't have accidents is there's nothing coming out of that junction anymore. So it worries me. What can we do to mitigate that problem or reduce it, or what, Peter?
Councillor Hunt, I can help you with the accident record. In the last 5 years, there have been 5 incidents, each involving 10 vehicles. One was a single vehicle, one was 3 vehicles in an incident, the other was 2 in each. They resulted in 3 slight injuries and 3 serious casualties. All of the 6 needed to go to hospital. That was the length of James Callaghan Drive from between the roundabouts at either end. One of those incidents was pretty close to this access, but none of them were relating to vehicles moving on or off the highway. There were people overtaking where they shouldn't be when somebody else is coming the other way, or going too fast and losing control. They were all indicative of excessive speed on the road. and I am concerned for the safety of any increase in pedestrian or cycling movement there, given that we've got no alternative facility for them.
And what's the speed limit along there, Peter?
I think it's de-restricted.
Yeah, 60, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ezzy, you wanted to come in on this, and then I'm going to go to Simon Turner, and then come back to Peter. So, Ezzy, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to draw the attention of members that the issue here is the exits and egress from this access point, which we have approved as a local planning authority maybe many years ago. Then the issue again that arises is what be the data that we have since this access point had been approved and had been in use, active use. And then we need to consider what is the significant increase in terms of movement that would result into impact on highway safety. The other question, the other input I wish to make is just touching on what Alette has touched upon, is that it would not be proportionate in terms of additional asking for cycle pathway and otherwise. I think the issue about crossing and how people assess this point is, again, is considering behavioral patterns. The local center where people would probably need to go to, again, the nature of access to this site when it was in the previous use or in the current use at the moment, because that is being changed now, which was an office. People would have been accessing it via cyclists would have been coming in to walk, be living there, lunchtime, would be going out and otherwise. So if we have no data or there's no data reported of any issues, then the point is what has significantly increased as to raise any hairs there, red flags in terms of there being any impacts on highway safety. And I do believe this stretch of the road is probably between 30 and 40 miles per hour. We can't control stupidity, but we have put the issues in terms of speed limits on the road, and the county council has done that. It will now be for people to decide how they want to use the road. One other thing that is very important, members, if I might draw attention, is the level of visibility displays, which means that if someone is coming out here and looking at the direction on both sides, east and west, and considering that speed limit, how likelihood is that whether it's a cyclist or whether it's a pedestrian to be struck or to cause highway safety issues. So if I might just leave that there for now, Councillor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Simon and then Peter. Then I'm going to go over to Councillor Jones because I saw her hand up as well. Simon Turner, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, just on the speed limit, I looked earlier. It seems to be 40 miles an hour on that stretch of road. It changes just to the west as you approach the mini roundabout further west, but the main stretch of road is 40 miles an hour as far as I could see from Street View.
Peter, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, happy to confirm the stretch at this frontage is 40 miles an hour. In terms of the comparison with the previous use of the site, we only look at accident records for the last 5 years. That site hasn't been operating very much at all in that period. So it's difficult to draw a comparison between that and the proposal and say there's been no issue during the last 5 years or so, because the site hasn't practically been operating during that period. There are, if I quickly share a screen with you, hopefully this will work. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
We have got footways running from the north, from the road to the south, that people are obviously using to access either the chalk pits or coming down into Paul's Grove. I don't think it's at all unlikely or unreasonable to expect a significant or a proportion of future residents on this site.
Hello? Hello, Peter? Hello? Sorry, I lost it. Hello? Hello, Peter? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Chair, I think he
Sorry.
might have dropped off. Maybe he's trying to log back in.
Sorry, was it me or was it...
I think Peter might have dropped off.
Oh, right, it was
If you
Peter.
try to log back in, yes.
Goodness for that, because I've been going quite well here at work, and it's I haven't had any problems with it, so that's good. Peter?
Sorry, I think I'm back, Chair.
Yeah, you dropped off.
I'm sorry about that. I was talking to myself for a while. I'm sorry, Chair.
I do that all the time, Peter. Don't worry about it. That's fine. Okay, members, do you want us just to quickly go back to I got about halfway. You were just pointing about people coming down to Paulsgrove, and then it froze there. So could you
share that screen again then?
Yes, just from the bit from Paulsgrove. You said about coming to Paulsgrove.
We have a number of links that people could use to access down to Paulsgrove, which is practically their closest access to services and local shops and churches and schools and all of that sort of stuff, albeit that it isn't a direct route via public highway, but there are a number of road linkages down there. And I think it highly probable that we would have people walking along James Callaghan Drive from the site access to access any number of these footpaths that head off to the south. As I said, I think the increase in comparison with the previous use, albeit that it hasn't operated much in the last 5 years, would be about a 30% increase in pedestrians that we'd see. That's what you'd ordinarily see a difference between a residential development at this scale and an office use of this scale. So I've no reason to think that would be any different. And there's a balanced judgment to be made in that regard.
Okay. Before I go to Councillor Jones, Aletta, sorry, did you want to come in just to clarify anything that you've heard to add before I go to Councillor Jones?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to make a point that whilst the site may not have been in operation in the last 5 years, what we are looking at here is if there is a problem in terms of pedestrians and cyclists on the road now, and not necessarily just from the use of the site itself. We just look at the road and the general problem. Is there a problem? Do we have evidence? So the fact that we, in terms of the data provided, it says 5 accidents within the last 5 years, which, like I said, on average, 1 accident per year. That shows us what is the highway safety, or how we haven't got any data about pedestrians here being killed or cyclists being killed on this road. And as Peter said, perhaps this road is used by residents or pedestrians to cross onto Paulsgrove. So we don't really have evidence to say this road is so dangerous that if we approve this 27 flats here and the residents will start walking on the road, they will get killed straight away, or they will be injured, or something happens. So the road is not unsafe at the moment. And we did say that the 27 flats and how many people who actually live in the flats will attempt to go out and will want to cross the road. So if we assume 65 residents, we will think about the proportion out of the 65 residents, how many is likely to go onto the street. So let's just, for the sake of argument, assume 10, 15 of them, maybe let's say even 20. Are they all going to get killed straight away on this road, or are they going to be injured as cyclists, given the current situation in terms of incidents and near misses on the road? And this is where we officers come from. We don't think that the road itself is so dangerous that the number of people that may wish to come out of the site as a result of this development, it will cause highway safety concern or issue, or it will put them at risk straight away.
Okay, thank you very much. And I wanted to try and get to Councillor Jones. I haven't forgotten about her, but I know Eze wanted to jump in very quickly. Eze, before I go to Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think the point which the local highway authority is referring to and referring to footpaths across the road down south, and suggesting that people might want to use that for to access public facilities or do their shopping and grocery. I just wonder if Peter himself has gone down that route and considered himself, if he was living in that block of flats, that whether he's going to use those footpaths to go into to do his shopping. I mean, the point which I have raised and just drawing members' attention is the current use. No data is there about any incidents or near misses resulting from them crossing the road for whatever. They could go there for their lunch break, for amenity, just to have a look at. There's not been any incidents whatsoever. We have less occupancy rate, and it's supposed to be that there will be an impact. Now, the other issue is about cycling. It's cycling workers to the employer's place would either cycle, would either take a private vehicle. So what has significantly changed? And the point about raising a matter of 5 years, that's the only data they have. If there's been any issue with that junction, that would have been raised, that would continue to come up for the local highway authority. It will not just be talking about 5 years and we haven't got any data for 5 years. Have they even got any data at all? No data whatsoever. I'm confident about that. So the point of it's looking at the approved access point, and that's an approved, and that would have been considered a grade there when that access point was approved, and that would have resulted in that level of visibility space. And so the position of the local planning authority and personal recommendation to members is that there has not been the issues that have resulted in mishaps or accidents have been purely of the drivers overtaking, as in the words of Peter himself. So it's not been an issue of people crossing the road to walk across, whether it's for the existing use or even likely for this proposed use. So our view as local planning authority is that there would not be any increase in terms of highway safety, and whether it's accessing the site or whether it's leaving the site, and also whether people are going by as pedestrians or cyclists. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go over to Councillor Donna Jones. Thank you for waiting, Councillor Jones. And then I'm going to go over to Councillor Luke Stubbs. Councillor Donna Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. The original point I was going to make about the cycle path has kind of moved on now, so I'm going to leave that one. But I do have another question, which is for the officer. And I viewed this site for somebody when it was on the market, when the MOD was selling it about a year ago. It's absolutely ginormous. I think it's 11 acres. And one of the things I did do was read fully the environmental report that came with it. And there was a second environmental report that I also read. And as a lot of former MOD sites often are, this has got a lot of toxic material buried underground. And if you know the site well, Chair, which I think you probably do, one side you've got an existing MOD establishment if you're looking towards the Solent to the right, and to the left you've got the DSTL site, which has got the Type 45 radar on top of it. So this is going to become a private residential site in between those two sites. Now, in terms of conditions and residential development on that site, I just wanted to check that the conditions are, the officer has covered that, and the environmental conditions are going to be sufficient, considering there is reports and documents out there which purport that there is a lot of toxic material buried in the site.
Aletta, I think that's one for you first of all. I know a couple of officers want to get in as well. Aletta, did you want to?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Yes, I can clarify that the land contamination is known to Winchester City Council and they will consider it. I know that further information was requested and I think they're now waiting for their contaminated land team to comment on it. But because the building is located in Winchester City Council area, they will consider it and they will impose any relevant conditions. However, Councillor, if you wish to make a representation, you can make a representation to Winchester City Council and request that they take this into consideration. But like I say, from my correspondence with the planning officer from Winchester City Council, I know that they are considering it.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, you wanted to come in, and then Ezzy, and then Councillor Luke Stubbs. So Peter, quickly.
Thank you, Chair. We were talking about what the accident record looked like, and I explained that we'd only looked over a 5-year period because that was what we typically do. I've just flicked up the results for a longer period, back to 2012, just to give you sight of those. During that period, we've had 3 fatalities, 2 serious injuries. One of those fatalities was at the junction of the site when it was in more operation. Hopefully you're seeing that screen. Oh, I disappeared again.
No, we can hear you.
Brilliant. Hopefully you're seeing the screen. So the yellow boxes would be, we won one in 2014 involving 2 vehicles, 1 casualty. But we've got one here, 2000, a death. We've got one there, 2015, a fatality. We've got serious injuries here. When there are people using this road in any number, we get incidents. And it would be to misrepresent the case to say that when the site hasn't been operating during the last 5 years, we're not seeing incidents and therefore the road's fundamentally safe. That would not be my view and not the advice the Highway Authority would give you.
Thank you very much. Ezzy, did you want to come in before I go to Councillor Stubbs?
Yes, Councillor, and this is the first time the FPA is having sight of this. I think it still comes down to what had led to these accidents, which the local highway authority is referring to. And I put it across to them that it's primarily due to driver's decision to overtake, which would be the issue here. It might be good if the highway authority could expand on each of those that they hover around with the reports that are attached to the incidents that have been reported on that. So you can see the stretch there, and the same thing with other bits of roads points along the James Callahan Drive. So it might be what I'm putting across is it is nothing to do with pedestrians crossing the road or using the road. It's nothing to do with cyclists using the road. It's more to do with drivers overtaking and drivers' decision.
I know Councillor Lee Hunt wants to come in, but Councillor Luke Stubbs has been quiet there. So can I come into Councillor Luke Stubbs and then go to Councillor Hunt, please? Councillor Stubbs?
Yeah, the question on a different matter. So when this facility was operating as an office, there must have been a right turn for traffic heading westbound to enter the site. So physically the road must be wide enough for that, and presumably it was all painted out back when the site closed down. Is there any intention to reinstate that, bearing in mind this is not a planning application, so perhaps we don't have the power, but is there any if this was a planning application, we'd be talking perhaps about conditioning that so they pay the cost for reinstating that access if it's required. Is there any way we can do that as part of this proposal, or is this unfortunately going to be a cost if it needs to be done that will fall on the council?
Arletta, I think that's down to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we could attach Section 106 agreement to this application. But again, whether this will be proportionate, I think this is something we would have to consider further.
Okay. Councillor Lee Hunt. Sorry to keep you waiting, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Hunt.
So, Peter, I mean, there's broken white lines there at the moment, which means people can overtake currently at that junction, as far as I'm aware. I'm sure that would be put right at some time. Peter, what could be done? What would we be allowed? So the planning officers need to tell me to do this. What would we be allowed to say or do to make that junction safe? It's not safe.
The right turn lane currently exists, and there are chevron markings to stop overtaking across the front of that junction. I have no particular concern for traffic emerging from that junction. The visibility display is good. There's no reason to have concern for the traffic movement. My only concern is for cyclists and pedestrians walking alongside that road, be it in the carriageway or on the verge, given that there's no other facility for them, and the likelihood of them crossing to access that space to the south. We could require footways to be provided, but that would change the nature of the environment quite significantly. There's clearly a professional difference between the Highway Authority and the Planning Authority on whether or not this is a safe environment for this sort of development. And there's a planning judgment you need to reach given the balance of that advice.
Councillor Hunt?
Yeah, so what are we allowed to do? Can somebody tell us what we can actually do or insist upon?
Should we ask legal if, I mean, for me, my view is that, you know, they have to demonstrate that there is a problem there. But I mean, legal, can you sort of advise us or if we can add anything or not to this? Kieran?
Thank you, members. Yes, I've been listening, and it's, I think, clear to me now that there's a conflict of credible officer opinion here, and you members, it's within your gift to reasonably pick between the two. Now, clearly, the report before you from the planning officers is such that the judgment can fall in favour of granting a prior approval in these circumstances because the highway matters are sufficiently safe and acceptable. But that is not to say that you could not, and I would probably look to Peter Howard to assist members in reaching appropriate reasons to refuse prior approval if that's the direction of travel you're interested in going in.
But can I ask very quickly, so this is a prior approval. I mean, can we put conditions on? Can we insist that the junction be made safe if they want to develop it? What are our powers to do something about putting in a cycleway or attach a condition that a shared cycle or footpath should? So I notice there's a P&R down there, but that's to the hospital, isn't it? But that joins up with bus stops.
Kieran?
So this area of permitted development, sorry, prior approval, is unusual in that you can apply conditions. However, you've heard unanimous officer views that in terms of imposing a footway by condition, that won't be proportionate. That seems perfectly reasonable to me. You've also heard in terms of the right turn that's unnecessary because there's already a right turn. So I'm not clear at this stage what any conditions or indeed Section 106 obligations, as a letter suggested, would be imposed or why, but happy to discuss.
Thank you, Kieran. Councillor Lindstag, we can always come back to other members. Councillor Lindstag, do you want to open up the debate?
Yes, I just want to ask a question. If we go ahead and approve this, I appreciate that we are not actually looking at a planning application for the building, it's just the access. But if we go ahead and approve it, is that tantamount to us saying we're okay with it, with the future planning application? I know we don't have to make that decision, but are we giving the go ahead to Hampshire County Council or whoever makes the decision? Because if we have, see, from my point of view, I have serious concerns about this. I know that I can't do anything about this application, but I want to raise my concerns to say to Hampshire County Council or whatever, this is a serious problem, a potentially serious problem. I mean, ever since I've been a councillor, and that's 14 years, James Callaghan Drive has always been a problem. I don't care what the officers say, there has been loads and loads of incidents along there. And it just gets to me that why isn't there any joined up thinking anywhere and planning? I mean, for example, Boris Johnson quite rightly has said we're going to reduce air pollution, have much safer roads, improve active travel, etc. And yet here is a government department saying, let's go ahead and build build a site which has got no public transport access. It's just only cars. So it's actually going against what the Prime Minister himself is saying. So it's joined up thinking, and it's the same with our officers here, because you've looked at the access bit, but not looked at the incidence of problems all along that stretch of road, and particularly outside that access road. So
I'm going to ask the officer if she can come back with anything what you've just said there, Councillor.
Basically, what I'm saying is, if we say yes, this is okay, is that tantamount to saying yes, this is an okay application? Go ahead and do it.
Aletta?
Through you, Chairman. Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the actual building is within Winchester City Council's area. So they look into it. They have to look into various aspects of it, including land contamination, etc., the design of the building, the living conditions of the prospective residents, etc. So anything to do with the actual building, because the building is within Winchester, they look into it. If members were minded to grant this development here, and that doesn't mean Winchester has to approve theirs. They will assess the proposal against the criteria in line with the legislation. If they feel it's acceptable, they will approve. If there are reasons to refuse it, they will refuse it. But the fact that if Portsmouth City Council granted the prior approval today, that doesn't mean Winchester has to grant approval for their site. So local planning authority in Portsmouth make decision on the development within Portsmouth site. Winchester, they make their decision for the development within their site. It can be that if today members were minded to approve it, Winchester may refuse it. I know they have, as I mentioned, I know there are issues with land contamination and there might be other issues as well. It's possible they will refuse the application, and that means that the applicant will end up with split decisions from different local planning authorities. But these cases unfortunately happen in a situation like this, when a site falls in between of two local planning authorities. So it is unfortunate it would be very unfortunate for the applicant, but it's not unusual. These things happen, and it is unfortunate that there could be joined up thinking in certain cases, but in this case, the applicant decided to submit two separate applications, one to us, one to Winchester, and that was the route they chose. And we, as a local planning authority in Portsmouth, we accepted the application and we have to consider it as it stands. And Winchester will do the same for their area, and the proposal or the development, the elements of the development which fall on their land.
Sorry. So Winchester is not likely to turn around and say, well, Portsmouth think it's okay, it's safe, so therefore on that point we're okay to go ahead.
That wouldn't be something that they can do, because they have other aspects of that development to consider. What they don't have is, obviously they don't have the access, and they won't consider the access. So their impacts in terms of transportation and highways will be different, because the access arrangement is in Portsmouth. So they will, the same as we don't consider the design of the building, etc., they won't consider the access, because it falls within Portsmouth City Council area and it's up to us. They can't refuse this application if they felt the access is not acceptable, because the access is not within their site.
Okay. Right. So could we put something in our decision that we have concerns about the safety aspects?
I'm sure we can do that if it comes to that, Councillor. We're still on the discussion.
Yeah.
And
yes, I realise that. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. Point taken. Councillor Judith Smythe, please. I think you were next.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I have doubts about making this decision on its own. I'm sure if we were approving the whole development, we'd want to see a cycle and a footpath built along that road. It would also serve walkers, because I've found myself trying to walk along that verge in the past, and albeit it is a very pretty path down the gap between the quarry and Paulsgrove, you can't actually walk in some of the areas that was implied that we could. It's too steep, but you can. There's a nice walk down there, and I think if I lived there, I probably would take that walk down and maybe get the bus into town and things from there. But you wouldn't want to carry a full load of shopping up that slope, especially if you're of any age. So, I just think that considering this in isolation is almost impossible. I would rather hope that Winchester have a mind not to approve it. And I do think that we would have to put conditions on it about having pedestrian and cycle routes along the top, which would very, very much help the walker who's enjoying that part of Portsdown Hill. It's a terrible walk along there. I found myself doing it one time, and it's on the verge. It's not safe, and it's very bumpy, and it's not a hospitable environment for pedestrians at all. I've done it fairly recently because we took a longer walk than we'd meant to and had to come back across the top. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I would be aghast if Winchester were to approve that, because it would be a separate development. And one could imagine they might feel they had to do it because it's already brownfield site. But there's another example of a similar development, which is at East Meon, just opposite the sustainable burial site, which no doubt some of us have been to, which is sort of executive style houses with no services whatsoever, built on a former defence site, which I think has very little justification for development. Quite a lot of Hampshire's former defence sites are in areas of outstanding natural beauty, right on the top of hills. And I would hope they wouldn't be approving it. But I don't particularly want to be part of a decision that encourages them to think it's okay, because I don't think it is. And I think there's plenty of grounds to say that piece of walking along the top there, or even cycling, is something I really wouldn't want to do. And as I've done it recently, it's pretty scary. People do go quite fast. They go faster than 40, but even 40 is pretty. Imagine doing it with a buggy. You couldn't do it with a buggy without being on the road, and then you would be at risk. Or a wheelchair, if you were a wheelchair user. I'm not happy with this, and I do hear grave doubts about it. And I would certainly go wanting to go walking down in the area of, what is it? It's a local protected area, Portsdown Hill, isn't it? It's a Portsmouth City Council protected area. Lovely, be able to go on little walks down there, but I would not want to walk along the verge up there at the top, because I've done it fairly recently, and it was actually quite an unpleasant experience.
Thank you. Councillor Lee Hunt, you wanted to come in on that, and then another question, and then Councillor Luke Stubbs for a question.
Yeah, I want to have the officers' views about this junction, because, if you're blind or partially sighted and you're going to take, this, and Councillor Smythe mentioned wheelchair users just now, there are, of course, people who want to be able to cycle, disabled cyclists who use the wheelchair type cycles. And also then there are people who are blind and partially sighted. This junction is not going to, I know they won't be driving, I get that, but that they will want to walk, and they can be barred from this development because they're blind or they're wheelchair users or so on. We're not really, there's nothing here today that I've heard. This isn't a statement, I'll come on to it in a minute. The government's national ambition in the policy framework for cycling says our ambition is we want to make cycling and walking the natural choices for shorter journeys or as part of a longer journey. So councillors here are expressing what the government want, but there's a concern here that is not going to happen if we were to agree this today.
Thank you.
What do you think about the national policy, planning policy about walking, cycling, and active travel then to the officers and to Peter? How does this fit in with that, this junction?
Ezzy or Peter? Everybody wants to come in.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, let's start off with Peter then.
Sorry, Chair. Whenever I turn my video on, it seemed to turn my microphone off for some reason. From my perspective, Chair, the site's clearly not accessible, but that's not a reason for refusal or a matter for you to consider in the context of a prior approval application. The only matter that should be a matter that Winchester consider the accessibility of the site when they look at the broader application. The only matters in front of you from a highway perspective are: does it have an impact on the capacity or operation of the network? And I would say it doesn't. There's plenty of traffic capacity. And is it safe for pedestrians or not? I would say it isn't. And then you come to the point of, does this generate more or less pedestrians than the existing lawful use, and is that a material increase or not? And I would say it's about a 30% increase in pedestrians between the different use types. And I would say that is material, and I would suggest a reason for refusal along the lines of the site not being able to offer safe access for cyclists and pedestrians, contrary to para 108 and 109 of the MPPF. Now, clearly that's a judgment call that I reach and is different to the judgment calls of your professional planning officers. I'm merely giving you a local highway authority view, which doesn't take that broader context into account, because I'm a simple engineer.
Okay. Can I go over to a letter, please? Just for, obviously, you're the case officer on this one, and then I'm going to go to Z. So, Aletta, what do you think of what you've heard?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is in terms of what can be considered under this application. As I mentioned earlier, it is a prior approval application, so it is planning permission in effect was granted by the legislation for this development, and there are only aspects that we need to consider before the development can go ahead. And unfortunately, sustainability of the location, the promotion of walking and cycling, it doesn't fall into that. The accessibility of the site, the fact that it's not connected to public transport modes, again, this is not part of the material consideration under this legislation. And Winchester City Council, they will not consider this as well, because their submission is made under the same legislation, and that legislation, that part of legislation, doesn't give us the opportunity to consider sustainability of the site. So this issue is in this case won't be considered at all. It can't be considered because it's not a planning application for planning permission.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Eze, did you want to sort of start wrapping things up on this one?
Yes, yeah. I'll just touch on this. I believe a letter is hinged on this a bit, and I think just where the LHA is not, if I use them, missing the point. The point is the legislation does narrow, the aspects that can be considered on this, and that's with regards increase or changes relating to the traffic entering or leaving a trunk road or the highway road, in case James Callahan Drive in this respect, or with increase or change the traffic or again entering or leaving. And this is where I've highlighted again that there's not any indication that there's been any issues with accessing and exiting this access point, the existing use. And so looking at what is being proposed in numbers, and we're looking at what is coming forward in Winchester and saying the number of occupancy rate, is there going to be any increase that will result in any issues that's being highlighted in the legislation? And I don't believe there is.
Okay, Eze. I think it's Councillor Luke Stubbs. I think you were next. Any other questions, Councillor?
No, I think the points I was going to make have come out of the discussion, so I will withdraw.
Thank you very much. Any more questions, members, before we move on to comments? And I know Councillor Jones has put herself on for comments first. So any more questions, members? Any clarifications? Okay then, so we're going to move on to comments, and I've got Councillor Donna Jones first of all, please. Councillor Donna Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to propose the officer's recommendation for the access road, taking into consideration the concerns that have been raised today, which I think Winchester will also, of course, give consideration to, the contamination. And yeah, I actually think there are some valid points that have been raised about cycling and footpaths. But I also take on board what Peter Hayward said at the very beginning, that he thinks, in his professional opinion, that it's difficult to tie that into an application for an access road. So on that basis, I'm pleased to propose it. Thank you.
So you're proposing with the officers to go with it. Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. See, you're going to have me work cut out here for the last one. Thank you very much. Councillor Lee Hunt, please. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm going the other way, and I'm siding with the Highways Authority. We have heard a lot of evidence today. We have heard evidence of already one fatality at this junction, and within close proximity, a number of very serious accidents, which have been described to us by the Highways Authority. And the Highways Authority asked us to consider footpaths in particular for an increase of 30% pedestrians arising out of the proposed application. So it's my view that it does not provoke, this application today won't safeguard pedestrians and cyclists in the way that the Highways Authority described, and as described by Peter, it's contrary to paragraph 108 and 109 in the National Planning Framework. And I've just been reading some of the government stuff online about how we should be promoting safer travel to work and joined up communities. And you know, if we're serious as a local authority about this, we need to start doing it. So I hope that the legal officer heard what I said. So I'm going to propose refusal on those grounds that I've just described.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunt. I've got Councillor Luke Stubbs, please. Councillor Luke Stubbs for comments, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I think we need to bear in mind the status of this. I mean, this is something which effectively already has planning permission. Planning permission, more or less, has been granted for a residential building via the national legislation and the permitted development scheme. So, you know, there was some talk in here about the principle of development of this site. There's nothing you can do about that. The principle is established. Now, in terms of the practicalities of it, I mean, I don't think it's reasonable or justifiable to impose an enormous cost of a cycle lane on a small development. Look, we have further up the top of Portsmouth Hill, there was a block of flats built next to the Chilean pub a few years ago. Now, I must admit, I can't remember off the top of my head whether that's connected onto the footpath or not. I don't think it is. And, you know, there was no condition imposed then because, again, it would be too much to put on a small development. So I don't think we can do that. I do still think there might be a case for reinstating the right turn. Look, I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to, you know, be a traffic engineer. I don't know. But, I mean, I do wonder if it might be worth adding a condition just to give delegated authority to officers to make a decision on that point. But that aside, I would like to second the proposal from Councillor Jones that we accept the prior approval and permit this scheme to proceed.
Thank you very much. So at the moment, I've got a proposal by Councillor Donna Jones and seconded by Councillor Luke Stubbs to go with what for prior approval so far. And so far, I've got a refusal for Councillor Lee Hunt to refuse what the officers are saying. In a minute, we'll get the if he can get a seconder for that, we'll then go into that a bit more deeper. But Councillor Terry Norton, please, you were next. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Now, I was going to follow Councillor Jones and Stubbs's comments there and second recommendations. Look, I like to be pragmatic, and you know, it bothers me when we seem to only really focus on theoretical considerations. We've got, as if I was a resident in this city, I'd be worried that I constantly get rammed down my throat, climate emergency, clean air zones, the need to build housing. And yet when we have an opportunity to have a development outside of the city, which is going to be built, we put hypothetical barriers in the way. So I'm not a fan of that. Look, I do feel that those roads at times around there can be dangerous, given one is the what's the road that runs along the back of it, the B2177 or something, the Suffolk Road. Yeah, that is a dangerous road there, but that's a dangerous road not due to sight lines or any other issues. It's due to racing and speeding drivers and driver error. So I think all of the issues raised today could be alleviated through signage. The test centre was or is up there, and that was often used as a road for learner drivers. Now, I don't think that road would have been used if it was particularly dangerous. So I'm going to go with a pragmatic approach and say that I do think this will lead to homes being built outside of the city, which is a good thing given our current concerns. And I think the traffic issues or the safety issues there, it's a road that has fairly good sight lines, and it would be driver error. So that's an issue for the police, it's an issue for signage, but I'd err on the side of pragmatism, I think, on this, and will be supporting Councillor Jones and Stubbs in their recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Norton. I'm still undecided, I'll be very honest with you all. Anyway, Councillor Judith Smythe, please. You're next.
I'd like to second Councillor Hunt's recommendation against this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judith Smythe. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Who else have I got left here? Peter's had to go, by the way. Councillor Hunt. Sorry, you've got your mic on, Councillor Hunt.
I just wanted to clarify something. I'm not looking for an argument, Councillor Norton.
No, of course. No.
But the 17 flats here would represent something like 0.001% of what we've got to do. But in fact, they won't count towards our city's targets because they'll be outside of the boundary. They'll be Winchester's targets, not ours. We've still got 17,000 to build here. I just wanted to make that little clarification.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Hunt. Well taken. Any other members want to say any comments before we go to some sort of vote in a second? Or not a vote, we have to make sure if we're going to, if we're not going to grant it, then obviously we need to make sure we've got the words in place where Kieran can help us out there. Any other comments, first of all? No? Okay. Kieran, I'm going to hand over to you a little bit if I can. So we've got Councillor Lee Hunt and Councillor Judith Smythe for refusal for this, and we've got Councillor Donna Jones and Councillor Luke Stubbs, proposed by Councillor Jones to approve, and Councillor Luke Stubbs to disapprove. So just point us in the right direction. We've got to have some words, haven't we, from Councillor Hunt and Councillor Judith Smythe?
I've done those with respect.
Yeah, I'm just making sure, thank you very much, that he's happy as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the approach will be that the first motion to achieve a seconder was the motion to grant prior approval in accordance with the officer's recommendation. There's one point of clarification I'd just like to make in relation to something Councillor Stubbs said in relation to the principle being established by the legislation. That's the General Permitted Development Order of 2015. One of the conditions for unlocking and establishing that principle is that the condition of having a prior approval granted is given. So there is that conditionality in that decision making. It's not fully established as might be the case of some permitted development rights. But in substance, I understand the thrust of your argument to be to go with the officer's report and to grant a prior approval. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I'm
I think
getting
that's
a nod from Councillor Stubbs.
getting a nod.
Councillor Jones, that's your understanding as well, yes?
Okay, so we're down to vote. So what are we going for first?
I've got the point that Luke was making about the PD on the existing building, which has been demolished, but it is there. It's massive, and actually you could have converted that existing building, had it not been demolished, into many more than 28 flats, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, I get the point he was making.
Okay, so Kieran, we're going for what we're going for voting first of all. Councillor Lee Hunt's first, is that it? Or Judith Smythe?
No,
Sorry.
it's
Sorry.
Councillor
Sorry,
Jones.
Donna Jones.
Motion.
Sorry, I'll get there in the end. Sorry. So, so the motion on proposed on the table is for Councillor Donna Jones, is as agreed, and Councillor Luke Stubb, and this is for a recommendation for approval. Is that correct? Yes. So that's the first one we're going for first of all. So it's Councillor Donna Jones and Councillor Luke Stubbs for approval and what the recommendation for from the officers, and that's to grant that. So everybody happy with that before we go to the vote? Yeah. Okay then. So Councillor Judith Smythe, please would you indicate if you're for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm against the motion.
Against. Okay, thank you. Councillor Atwell, please indicate if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm against, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Lee Hunt, if you're for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
Against.
Thank you very much. Donna Jones, are you for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
I am for the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Terry Norton, are you for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
Yeah, I'm for the motion, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lynn Stagg, are you for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Luke Stubbs, are you for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Councillor Claire Oody, either for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm against.
Okay, and myself to vote, I'm against that as well. Okay, so that has fallen. So now we move on to the next one, which is for Councillor Lee Hunt and Councillor Judith Smythe. This is for refusal. Is that correct, Kieran? Yes? Okay. I'm not getting nothing else. So this is for refusal.
Councillor, if I may.
Yes, and add the words to it. Sorry. Yes, that we're voting.
Yes,
Sorry,
I will have to. I noticed that Peter Hayward's dropped off, as he said he would have to at 1:45. Before we go to a vote on that, could I ask that we take a 10-minute adjournment for officers to discuss the appropriate wordings that will now fall to me and the planning officers, and we can ensure that an appropriate.
Chair, can I make a point to Kieran, if that's okay?
Yes.
Kieran, can you also, I don't know if you can go back and view, but Peter Hayward said he didn't think it was justification to refuse and hang a footpath on that or a cycleway based on the application that was being made for the access road. So can you go back and review what Peter said? Because I just think we need to make sure we've got the right advice here as well. He said that right at the very beginning when he first spoke.
In as much that he agreed that it wouldn't be proportionate against the quantum of development to condition.
I think that was the reason he was saying
Yeah,
it. Yeah, he definitely said it, but I think it was about that.
However, other people here may consider that it is proportionate, not wishing to provoke an argument, but
but we don't want to get on to that. We've had the discussion. Thank you, Councillor Hunt, and everything. Thank you very much for that.
The point is, councillors, that conditions are to be used where proportionate to overcome objections to development. If the condition that you would be imposing is disproportionate to the development, and the correct route to steer it down is to refuse the development rather than impose a condition that can't actually be enforced.
Yeah.
Okay then, Kieran. Members, so it's now 4 o'clock. So if we can reconvene at 4:10. Just to remind members, please, to switch your microphones off, and you can be seen and heard if you leave them on. Thank you very much. We'll see you at 4:10. Thank you, members. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hello, members. Everybody, welcome back. Thank you.
I can hear you, David.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Anna, do you want to check that everybody's back in the room? I think we're all here, Anna.
I think we just need, is Councillor Jones there? Because I think you're all there.
Yeah.
Oh, right, that's all of you now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Just checking the officers are back, are they? And Kieran? Oh, I'm back. Lovely. Thank you. Peter's back with us as well. So thank you, Peter. Kieran, are you back with us, sir?
I think it says he's on hold.
Ah.
Along with Eze's on hold. But...
Ah. Kieran's back with us. Welcome back, Kieran.
Good afternoon. Apologies that I'm 3 minutes late.
That's okay. Any luck?
Yes, there's just one point I want to clarify first. Concerns relating to safety are clearly paramount here, but I just want to knuckle down on whether or not you're just concerned with pedestrians, or whether it's pedestrians and cyclists, or indeed some other permutation of the two.
Yeah, we talked about pedestrians, cyclists, wheelchair users, a range of people, and so on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kieran.
Clive, did you want to come in with anything there to add to what Kieran's
No,
proposed?
it's any pedestrians, cyclists, wheelchairs, people with pushchairs, yeah, all that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Chair, it might be easier just to refer to them as vulnerable road users.
Vulnerable road users.
That would be a catch-all group.
Is that acceptable, Kieran?
Yes, thank you, Peter. I didn't know you were returning. Thank you. That's appreciated. When you say vulnerable road users, you're referring to pedestrians and cyclists within that bracket?
That's a catch-all term for non-motorists.
I'll be with you.
Okay, Peter, then I will run this past you first for a professional view before members can comment. So the motion that I've drafted, Peter, is prior approval is required and refused due to a likely 30% increase in vulnerable road users, resulting in a consequent unacceptable highway safety risk to those users in connection with the proposed development, contrary to paragraph 109 of the NPPF.
I think it's contrary to para 108 and 109. 108 requires safe and suitable access to the site for all users, which would be a particularly helpful reference to have if I'm defending this.
Much
obliged. It would be nice to use that wording. In all honesty, that the proposal doesn't provide safe and suitable access to the site for all users.
Okay. So, Peter,
I'm sorry, Chair, I wasn't part of the officer discussion.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. We need to get it right before we vote on it because it's important. Because obviously, as you said, it's up for a challenge. So, Kieran, do you want to read that out again? Do you mind?
Just bear with me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
The wording from the MPPF that you prefer to use, Peter, is safe and suitable access.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll run that past you again. Prior approval is required and refused due to a likely 30% increase in vulnerable road users, resulting in a consequent unacceptable highway safety risk to those users in connection with the proposed development's lack of a safe and suitable access, contrary to paragraphs 108 and 109 of the National Planning Policy Framework.
I'd be very happy with that, Chair. Thanks, Kieran.
Thank you very much. So, members, so we're voting on for refusal, and obviously voting for what Kieran's just said was proposed by Councillor Lee Hunt and seconded by Councillor Judith Smythe. So that's what we're voting on now, councillors. Okay, is that okay, Kieran? Yeah, fine. Okay then, so Councillor Judith Smythe, please, would you indicate if you're for or against that, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for this recommendation against approval.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Atwell, please. You for, against, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm for the motion, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Lee Hunt, please indicate if you're for, against, or the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
For. Councillor Donna Jones, please indicate if you're for, against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
Against.
Councillor Terry Norton, please indicate if you're for or sorry, will you please, if you're for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
I'm against, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lindstag, please indicate if you're for or against the motion, or do you wish to abstain?
For.
Okay. Councillor Luke Stubbs, please indicate for or against, or do you wish to abstain?
Against.
Councillor Clary, would you please indicate if you're for or against the motion, do you wish to abstain?
For.
Okay, and my vote will be for. So could Anna please add up, please?
Yeah, that's 6 who are for the motion and 3 who are against.
So that's been carried, members. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Can I first of all thank the officers then for over the year giving me a great deal of support there, and can I thank you members as well for all your contributions over the year. I really appreciate it, and thank especially my deputy chair for looking after me and stepping in at times. Thank you, Councillor Judith Smythe. Can I wish you all good health and happiness, and hopefully, please God, we'll see each other at some point. But thank you all again, and I wish you a very good evening, and good evening to all people out there that are watching. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
I'd like to say, Chair, you're going to be sadly missed.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Bye-bye, everyone.
Not necessarily.
God bless.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Chair. I'll end the live stream now.
Not
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.